Welcome to the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast with your host, Julie C. Butler. If you're looking to build the business of your dreams, then this is the space you want to be in. Join Julie as she talks about ways that you can successfully scale your profitable dream business, one that will give you ultimate time freedom and the abundant lifestyle you deserve. Julie will take you by the hand, sharing with you her business savvy strategies as she chats it up with her favorite online entrepreneurs. You'll get a weekly dose of boosted confidence as you learn as they reveal their insight, tips, and tools that you need to start building a profitable dream business of your own, one that you'll love and that works for you on autopilot.
Hi there. Welcome back to the BBB podcast. And I would love to introduce you to Judi Moreo today. I said it right, like Judi Moreo?
No, it's Moreo, like Oreo cookies with an M. Moreo.
Of course, Moreo. And that could be also because I'm French, and so that's why I said it that way. I find
a lot of people
do. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've set that straight, I would love for you to take a moment to introduce yourself, Judi. Normally I do this like on my own before we record the episode, but this time I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'll let Judi tell us.
Okay, about me. Well, I have been a writer for many years, and that's what I always wanted to do when I was growing up. I wanted to be a journalist and a writer, and I had the opportunity to do those things. But I also had the opportunity to do a lot of other things. So I owned a finishing school and model agency for many years, and I taught all of these subjects of self-confidence, self-worth, how to believe in yourself, and a lot of women, not just teenage girls, but a lot of business women would sign up and say, we'd like to go through this course. And so over the years, I found out what people had as insecurities and what was keeping them from moving forward. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to take all the material and all the information that I have from all these years of teaching this and put it into a book. And that's why I did write the book, You Are More Than Enough, Every Woman's Guide to Purpose, Passion, and Power. I wanted the word peace in there somewhere too, but it was just too many words. Because I do think that those of us who are in power need a lot of peace to balance ourselves out. So that's one of it. I have written 24 other books, and I do ghostwriting for other writers. So I've written about 26 books for other people to put them on the market. I've been a professional speaker for 50, count that, 50 years. People go, you mean 15? I'm like, no, I mean 50. I've been on the road, traveling the world, 29 countries, speaking predominantly to women's group, but I do a lot of training for men too, a lot of leadership training. And so I've gotten to see the world. And that was another one of my goals on my bucket list, was to see the world. And so I've seen 29 countries so far. I'm sure there's a few left for me to visit. I don't know the exact number of countries in the world, but I know it's well over 100. And so I've still got a ways to go. And let's see, what else do you want to know about me? That's a lot.
And where are you from, Judi?
I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Actually from a little town outside of Houston, Texas called Genoa, Genoa. It's not really there anymore. Houston just gobbled it up at one point years ago, but that's where I'm originally from. But I came to Las Vegas, Nevada in 1962, and I was here until I went to Africa in 1990 and lived in Africa until 1998. And then when I came back from Africa, I drove 40,000 miles across America trying to figure out where I wanted to live, and ended up right back in Las Vegas because it was home.
That's amazing. And I love how, first of all, you look so young. So I have to say, you've been a speaker for how many? I agree when people say, did you mean 15?
No, 50 years. In fact, it's funny. We were talking at the National Speakers Association Las Vegas chapter recently about the length of time various people have been speaking. And it came down to there's very few people that have been in this industry as long as I have and made a living at it. It's a hard business. Patricia Fripp, who's probably one of the best female speakers in the world, she's also in our chapter, and she's been speaking every bit as long as I have. So, there we were the other day thinking, well, is it time to retire? These people are looking at us like, you're pretty old. Maybe you should move on. But no, in fact, I'm starting a new cosmetic company next year, and we've been doing all the preparation for it because with the women that I work with all the time, they keep telling me they're worried about their skin, they're worried about how it feels, they're worried about looking older, a lot of women tell me they're feeling invisible. And so the guys at the TV station and I were talking about it one day, and one of the fellows said to me, "How old are you?" I said, "You are really rude. You don't ask a woman that question." And he said, "Well, I think you're older than I think you are." I said, "Well, if you think I'm older than you think I am, then you think I'm old, right?" And he goes, "No, I just mean, I think you're older than you look. And I think we should go back in the cosmetic company," because I used to own a cosmetic company years ago. And he said, "I think we should go back in that business, and you should tell women how having the right skincare can make them feel prettier, not younger, but prettier and more themselves." And the more we talked about it, the more we got into it. And we've just created this new line of cosmetics and skincare products. And I guess we're going to launch it in January or February. We're trying to put the TV show together now to promote it. And it's fun.
Amazing, Judi. I know, and like you're a special human, so I think that retiring is not an option.
No,
because what you're sharing and what you're spreading to the world is so needed and special, and truly inspiring others and empowering women, right? So that's why I'm really excited to talk about your book, because you are more than enough. Like that's so important, especially nowadays, right? Like we are so bombarded with so much stuff online that it's so easy to get caught up in the trap of not feeling worthy and not feeling enough, and not, all the feels that come up because of that, right? Like, I mean, wow, you've been doing this for a while, so you've had to shift through all of these changes, and I'm sure you've seen differences and all that stuff, like from decade to decade with the internet and all that stuff, right?
Yes. And I've had women tell me that they feel invisible now. I'm talking about women over 60. The women up to 50, 55, they're still pretty, moving around thinking they're cool and moving forward. But women who are my age, they get, their husbands have died, a lot of them. They don't have their career anymore. Their children are grown and gone. And they're like, I just feel invisible. I don't feel like I'm important. One woman said to me the other day, she was sitting next to me at a lunch, beautiful, beautiful lady. And she said, "I wish I was somebody." And I was like, "You are somebody." And she said, "No, I mean like somebody, like you." I said, "You are somebody like me. What are we talking about here?" And she said, "Well, I just don't feel like anybody knows I'm a somebody." It just broke my heart. I was just like, wait, let's. And so before lunch was over, of course, I'd given her a whole self-esteem lecture. And and hopefully she feels better at this point. But that's what it's about, for people who are starting to feel like, oh, nobody cares about me. I'm just here, And I'm a perfect example of that. My brother and my sisters have all passed away because they were older than me. My parents are gone. My boyfriend of 14 years just recently passed away. So you're all by yourself. And then you have this wonderful little cat that you live with. And you feel like, oh, I'm the old lady with the cat in the rocking chair. And then the cat dies, So for me, it was just like the end of the world. It was like, oh. But luckily, because I work, because I own part of a television station, because I'm constantly interviewing other people and being around people, and I live in a city which has a diverse group of people. On my TV show, it's called What's Your Story with Judi Moreo on Roku. on WWDB TV. I've got to say that, or my partners will be upset about it. But on that show, I interview celebrities, because we have all these people that come to Las Vegas, authors, speakers, doctors. I just interviewed a doctor that does sex changes on people. He's the surgeon that does that. Wow, what an interesting interview that was. So I'm around people and I learn things every day. I'm involved in it. But a lot of women our age or my age don't do that. Their lives they're kind of feeling like, oh, my life's over. Where am I going from here? That's the reason I keep pushing forward, because, well, no family. So I've created this family around myself out of these people that I promote. And I teach art at the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. And I do that because I only discovered my artistic ability when I had cancer about 15 years ago. And so now I teach art at UNLV and I in the continuing education. So I get all kinds of adult people who come in, men and women both. And then when they realize they can do this because they never knew they could, new self-esteem, new confidence, new feelings about themselves. And now I've been asked to work with the women's prison system here in the state of Nevada, to go there and teach art. And I don't just teach art. My art is about self-confidence. That's what it's about. So they learn to paint, but at the same time, people learn to believe in themselves. So I'm really excited about this new project of going to the prisons as well for women.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so if there's listeners that kind of like are more in my age group, that I think that can happen to us too. We can get lost in it. We have kids and then we take care of them. And then after they're teenagers, like, okay, well, now what? Like they can take care of themselves. Like, what do I do now? Right. Or when they leave home, right? Like now what? So I think that at every phase, there's that need for being, seen, I think, right?
Yes. And my book very much addresses women in your age bracket, because it talks a lot about the workforce, and what we're doing and how we promote ourselves and how we're treated. I remember when I first went to live in Africa, and I was the group promotions manager for a media group of television stations, radio stations, newspapers, and I was at a board meeting with men, and I said to them, "Where's the ladies' room?" And one of them turned to me and he said, "Oh, there is no ladies' room on this floor. We didn't think any of you would make it this far."
Wow.
Whoa. So there's a lot in my book about addressing issues like that we have had to deal with in our lives. And it's, hopefully there'll come a day when men will quit feeling like women are not on an equal basis with them. And so I addressed that in my book. But now I've been selected, as you have, to be speakers at the Women Thrive Summit in March. And I'm so excited about that, because there were, 2,000 women that applied to be speakers in this program, and there's only like 50 of us that were selected. So that's pretty exciting. And to have the opportunity that women all over the world can watch us on Zoom or on StreamYard, or I think it's it is StreamYard. I think that they're doing this.
Yes, StreamYard.
Sure. Yeah. And so that we're going to reach so many people. That's what's so exciting. We're going to have women all over the world.
And it's so important to spread the message, because I really think that, for anybody who's listening to this or out there in the world and thinking that they can't achieve this level of success, or whatever level of success that they want to achieve, whatever that looks like. And it doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be, whatever you envision for yourself. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But there is enough abundance in the world for every single one of us. And so you can go and get it, and you are worthy of that, and you are enough, and all the things. So I think that's really important. And, to spread the message is also like special, right? So, but Judi, going back to your book, so you talk about quit making potholes into canyons. I love that expression so much. So what do you mean by that?
Well, in Africa, we had a lot of potholes in the roads, and they were just little potholes, you know.
Costa Rica too.
Yeah. So we don't have so many of them in America, hopefully. In my neighborhood, we have a few. But what I mean by that is we have a tendency in life that when something happens to us, we just feel like, oh, this is a tragedy. And we need to determine, is this just a small pothole or is this the Grand Canyon? You know, because we have a tendency to make it bigger than it is. And
Right?
yeah, and sometimes we need to sit down with it and just figure out. My mother used to always say to me, everything is figure outable. You can figure out anything. If you sit down and look at it like a puzzle, you say, okay, how are these pieces fitting together and how do I make it work for me? And then there was my father who I would go, this is just not a good time for this to happen. And he would say, well, when would be a good time for it to happen? Never, never. And so I had to put those two thoughts together and say, okay, how can we quit making these little potholes into these big events? How can we think differently about it? And that's where you start asking questions of yourself as to, you know, what does this mean? How is it going to affect my life next year or even next week or 10 years from today? How is this going to, and what one step can I take to go forward to make myself feel like I'm making progress so I can keep going forward with it to get it solved?
I love that. That's such a good example. And, you know, I think that we get tripped up on the little things and make them way bigger than they need to be instead of moving forward into the direction of, okay, how can we fix this? What is the opportunity that perhaps may come out of this, right? And so what are your tips what would you say to someone who's fallen into that trap, who's like making the little potholes into canyons? What do you say to them to get them out of the worry trap?
Well, first thing is to stop dwelling on it. Because when I dwell on something and I talk about it to everybody, I tell everybody my problem. And every time I tell it, it gets bigger. I don't know if other people exaggerate like I do, but when I tell it, it just gets bigger. And when I tell it, I put all the emotion on it. And I had to learn to take the emotion out of it. If I'm going to tell it, I've got to tell it factually and get in control of my emotion, because I would get so into it, I'd get myself all worked up again and had to get over that part of it. To stay future focused. You know, so many of us live in the past. My past was this way. It was good. I was famous. I was on stage. I was doing things. I loved my life then. My life was more glamorous. So what? That's not today. You know, so what is today and what is the future about? And what can I do with the future? I make a bucket list. And then I do everything on my bucket list as quickly as I can. I said to someone this year, I just finished my bucket list again. You know, so what's the choice? Do I make a new list or do I kick the bucket? You know, it's that time to really stay future focused, to have goals, to have ambition, to go forward. And some people don't know much about goals. I was amazed. I was doing a program in a casino up in Indiana, and a lady in my audience told me she had never heard about goals. I'm looking at this woman who's like 35 years old, and she said, I've never heard about setting goals before. I don't know how to do that. You know, so I think it's real important for us to say, this is something I want to do or have or be. This is some way I want to educate myself. These are the books I want to read, and stay focused on the positive things we have in our life. One thing I do, and I recommend to other people, is to have a gratitude journal and to write every morning what we're grateful for, first thing in the morning, because that starts your day. If you start out with, I'm grateful for my house, for my car, for my kids, for my husband, for the people that live next door to me. I could have horrible neighbors, but I don't. You know, if we start looking at what we have instead of what we don't have, it helps us be more grateful. And that helps us, believe it or not, deal with the potholes. You know,
it really does. Yeah, it really does. And I think too, it's important to mention that it's a process, right? Like it's just going to get easier as we go along, right?
Yeah.
Like the more we practice these things that you're talking about, the more we'll be able to, something happens, oh, whatever, you just let it roll off your shoulders and you move into the direction of opportunity. What's the solution? How can we make it better or fix it or whatever that looks like, right? So I think it just gets easier and easier as we go along, and it gets better and better. And there's going to come times where we need to maybe add on a new skill, right? Because maybe the challenge or whatever we call it is a little bit more tricky or difficult or whatever. And then we learn new skills, and then we just keep adding into our tool belt. And it just makes it easier as we go and move along, right?
Exactly.
In life or in business, right?
Exactly. I've learned that everything has, how would I say this? Sometimes we feel like we're not capable of doing something. We want to do something, but we don't feel capable. We can do it because we can figure it out. We can say, okay, what's the first step? What's the second step? And take just enough steps to where we get to the top of the hill or the top of the issue. And then what do I do next? And then we start down the other side. And it comes. As you go, it starts coming to you. As you have the courage to step into the unknown and do something, then before long, the next thing appears before you, and then you can step there, and then you can take the next step, and all of a sudden you're in it and you're doing it, and it's perfect, and it comes out. And sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes we screw it up. We're trying, but you can always go back and fix it. You can do it over. You don't have to be stuck with the solution that you got. Look at it and say, okay, that's not just right. How can I adjust that to get what I want?
Absolutely. And I mean, half the time, what we worry about is completely out of our control, right? And what does it serve? It doesn't serve us, right?
My minister once said to me, Judi, worry is a form of prayer. He said, if you keep worrying about it, you're going to bring it about. So you need to give that up. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an awakening.
I love that. If you're listening to this and you remember one thing of this conversation, this is it. What we worry about, we bring about.
Yeah, so we've got to stop that. Mm-hmm. We really got to stop that. When we look at it and we start to worry, we say, okay, what can I do about this? What can I do? What step can I take? What one thing can I do? Maybe who can I talk to that has already been there and done that might be able to give me a little advice? I think having a mentor or a coach is one of the best things that people can do for themselves. People are always amazed at me at my age that I still have a coach. I do coaching. And they say, well, you coach people all over the world. What do you mean you still have a coach? Well, sometimes I just need to talk about it to somebody, and I need to talk about it to somebody who isn't going to get emotionally involved in my stuff. Because if you talk to the husband or the boyfriend or the child or your mother, sometimes you end up getting in an argument with them because they're feeling differently about it than you are, or they'll tell you, oh, you're smart, you can figure it out, just go do it. So I need somebody that'll say to me, well, what, why, how, when, how are you going to do that differently? Here's an exercise. Try this, try that. That's one of the things I did in my book, You Are More Than Enough. At the end of every chapter, I put a worksheet. It's like questions. What did you get out of this chapter? How do you do these things? And then I gave them an assignment at each one to go and do something that was about that chapter. One of the assignments is to go to lunch by yourself in a busy cafe and sit there and observe people. Because women very often do not want to go out in public and sit down and eat a meal by themselves. They'll have room service instead.
True. So true. And here we are, and my husband, he's like, he just goes out, sits at the bar, has a drink. He loves it. Yeah. He loves it. He ends up talking and meeting all kinds of people.
Exactly. And so I've given them these little assignments at the end of each chapter that says, try this, do this, step out of your comfort zone. Because, we step out of our comfort zone and then something doesn't go just right and we're back in our comfort zone, rather than saying, okay, now How do I keep going forward with this?
Yeah.
And
that's such amazing wisdom and tips and tricks. So we were talking before and you mentioned goals. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because sometimes we're told, oh, go out and set goals. But we're not taught how to set goals properly, right? And so we kind of do it half, or kind of the way we think we should do it, or we don't do it at all because we skip that step. And I think it's a crucial step into everything, right? So why do you think that is, that so many people don't set goals?
Well, I think they don't know how. And I think they have set goals before or made a New Year's resolution. And then 2 weeks later, they give it up because they don't know how to go forward with it. And so I think it's very important to realize that our goals should be attached to a purpose. If our goal is attached to a purpose, we're going to keep doing it. Let's say that I want to be remembered as a good person when I die. Well, that's a purpose. So how do I get remembered? Well, I write a book. Well, I put an online course on. Oh, I get involved in the television station and have a show. Or let's see, what could another goal be? My one girlfriend, she wanted to paint an incredible painting, and the painting that she wanted to paint, she was going to. It was a picture of the Eagles on stage, and it had the whole band, and everything had blue lights on it. And she wanted to paint that. She never painted before. She came to class. I said, "Okay, you can do this." And she's like, "Can I?" And I said, "Well, let me ask you this. Why do you want to paint this painting?" She said, "Because my son and I did that concert together, and I want to give it to my son for Christmas." Okay, there's the purpose. I want to give it to my son for Christmas. So that made her sit down, and it's huge. I mean, it's 3 paintings all put together as one big painting. And she sat down, and it took her 2.5 years to paint that painting. She came every Saturday for 2.5 years. But you see, she didn't give up on it because she was making little bits of progress, and she had a purpose. It's going to my son for Christmas. Maybe she didn't make it this Christmas or next Christmas, but she made it the 3rd Christmas. And so sometimes the deadline has to be moved, or the finish line, I should say.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. As long as you're making steady progress forward, and the goal might be, I want to send my son to college. That might be the goal. And so you work at something to make money, to have the money to send the kid to school. You just want to make sure he wants to go there before you start killing yourself for it.
Obviously. Okay. So in goal setting, Judi, I was going to call you Julie. In
that's
goal
okay.
setting, yeah, I'm sure you get that too sometimes. I've gotten Judi before.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah. In goal setting, is it okay to be selfish? Because I think that a lot of us keep ourselves from being selfish, right?
Yes, it is, because it's your goal. It's what you want. And here's the thing with a lot of women, we take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. And you can't take care of everybody else if you don't take care of yourself. So you have to start taking care of yourself first. So some of the goals might be that I want to get healthier, that I'm going to walk a mile every morning in order to be out in nature and clear my head and get myself physically more fit. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay to take a little time for yourself, because you want to stay healthy, you want to stay happy, you want to stay pleasant, you want to stay focused and anchored in your self-esteem and your self-confidence and your self-worth. And you can't do that if you aren't a little bit selfish.
And I mean, so many things, right? Like, I mean, if your goal is, that you get your hair done, or you get nails, or manicure or pedicure, like those things, we are allowed to add those things, right? Like for me back in Canada, I don't so much here, but I had a bath every day. That was my, like, I'm allowing myself to have my relaxing bath so that I can kind of like,
Yeah.
refocus. I mean, it's different here because not too many houses have bathtubs in Costa Rica, but I have a pool and I have a rooftop deck, and so now I allow myself to be more in nature, right?
Right.
And so that comes along with taking care of myself and your sanity and all the things, but it looks different for every single one of us. But I think that it's important to add those goals to our lists as well, right?
It
And
is.
not be afraid to dream big.
Oh, that's one of the things that I talk about in my book is have a big dream. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have a big dream. If you don't, you just don't you don't feel like you're accomplishing something.
Yeah.
And I know people that they say, "Oh, I don't want to dream too big because I may not meet it. I may not get it." So what? You're going to be a lot further along than you would be if you didn't try, if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
make an effort, if you didn't say, "Okay, I want to go there." Years ago, I put on my bucket list that I wanted to go and do a hot air balloon safari over the Serengeti when the wildebeest were migrating. That was, that's a big
So
dream, you know?
specific. So
Yeah.
specific. I love it.
Well, it has to be specific. That, when you're writing out your goal, you need to get real specific. And so I put that on my bucket list. That's what I wanted to do. And I went to Africa probably 25 times and never got to do the hot air balloon over the Serengeti, watching the wildebeest. And one day, my girlfriend here in Vegas called me and she said, "I'm going to go to Kenya and Tanzania, and I'm just wondering if you'd like to go along." And I said, "Oh, I'm so busy, and I don't know if I have that kind of money right now." And she said, "Well, if you decide you want to go, it would be great." And I said, "Well, just a question. Does it have a hot air balloon safari with the over the Serengeti?" And she goes, "Yes, as a matter of fact, it does." I said, "Okay, sign me up." And she went, "What?" I said, "Sign me up." I got out the credit card and I signed myself up, and it was expensive, this trip, because we went to Kenya and then we took this hot air balloon over the Serengeti, watching the wildebeest, and we landed in Tanzania, and then we were there, and everything was first class, and it was wonderfully expensive, but it was fabulous, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And it took me like 3 years to pay it off. But you know what? I did it. And it was one of those things I just really wanted to do. And having done it, it gave me confidence. It made me believe I can do that. I can make that happen. And now when people say, "What does it take to get to Africa?" I say, "A plane ticket." That's all it takes is a plane ticket. They're like, "Really?" I go, "Yep, a plane ticket and a credit card. That's what it takes." But then when you get home, you got to pay for it. And I think that had to do with what my dad used to teach me growing up. You can do or be or have anything you want to have or do or be, as long as you're willing to take the consequences for it. That was something he kept telling me over and over growing up. As long as you're willing to take the consequences. So you got to look at what's the consequence going to be before you make the decision to do it. And I knew the consequence to that was going to be paying it off over a couple of years, but it was
Yes.
worth it to me. It was well worth it.
Totally worth it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you, Judi, you have formatted "You Are More Than Enough" in a unique way. So why did you include exercises and skills and practices and affirmations at the end of your chapters? We're diving into a little bit more of the book itself now.
Yeah. Well, I wanted people to really read the book. And I wanted them to answer the questions at the end of chapters to get them to think about what they read. And the affirmations are there because I believe everyone needs to have an affirmation in their life. They need to affirm what it is that they believe in. And if it's something they would like to believe in, but they don't, an affirmation is even more important because let's say I want to lose 50 pounds. If I'm going around all the time saying, "I really want to lose weight, but I just can't," I'm affirming that I can't.
Yep.
And so I've got to say, I am at my perfect weight, 50 pounds lighter than right now. I am at my perfect weight. when I say I'm at my perfect weight, my little brain starts laughing. It goes, ha ha ha, no, you're not. You're not at your perfect weight, and you never will be. That's what the voice says. And I have to say, yes, I am at my perfect weight, and it's coming to me right now. Right now. It has to be that you believe in the present that it's possible for this to be you. And it is. It's possible. I know a lot of people have lost 50 pounds. So it's not like, oh, they could do it, but I can't. It's like, whoa, well, of course I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. Now I just have to find out the path for me that will make it work. And it might be I try 2 or 3 different ways and they don't work. I mean, I've tried all kinds of these weight loss programs that they sell on the internet and on TV and whatever, and they didn't work for me. But when I found what worked for me, then I stuck with it, then it happens. And so I think that you have to have those affirmations. I created a journal to go along with the book. Actually, after the book came out and people started doing it and doing the affirmations and doing the things at the end of the chapters that I gave them to do, then they would say to me, okay, I've filled up my book. I've done all the questions. I've done all the answers. But what now? And so I created for them an achievement journal. So they have this journal, and in it has 411 affirmations. So for every day, there's an affirmation, like I am living a values-based life. And I have them think about that. Or I am crystal clear about my life purpose. I am making things happen. I show appreciation to others. Those are affirmations. They're written in the here and now as though it's happening right now. And it may not be, but if you repeat that over and over, if you repeat, I'm living a values-based life over and over, if you repeat it 10 times every day for a couple months, guess what? You'll be living a values-based life. And that's why I did this journal. There's 411 affirmations in here. And every 21 days, there's a way for us to measure how are we doing in each of the stress areas of our lives. How are we doing in career? How are we doing with our family? How are we doing with our spiritual life? How are we doing with recreation? Are we having fun? People don't realize that's a part of our life. We have to make sure that we do. How are we doing in the community or the world? Are we helping promote and take care of our world? Because, just even walking down the street and picking up trash you happen to see when you're out walking, that's a way to make the world better. And so what do we do each day? And then you can measure that every month, and you can see which areas of your life you're doing well in and which ones you need a little work. That's all. It shows you where you're out of balance. And so I just highly recommend that people write affirmations every day. You write them over and over. My friend Mike Rayburn is an entertainer here in Vegas, and he writes out at the beginning of every year, he writes out 10 affirmations for his year of the things he really wants to accomplish, but he writes it as though he's already done it. And then every day he writes all those 10 affirmations 10 times. Every morning he gets up and writes each affirmation 10 times. And that man is so successful, it's unbelievable. And now people are hiring him to not only be an entertainer, but to speak to their groups, to their conferences, to talk about how they can achieve the success that he's achieved.
It's amazing. Awesome.
Yeah,
I know. And it's as simple as that, right? The gratitude journal, writing your affirmations, coming up with your affirmations, writing your affirmations, and just rewriting them every day. If it's that simple to have the success in our lives, then why don't we do it?
Why don't we do it? Because we don't believe that it's that simple. And here's the thing, when you write your affirmation, when you're actually writing it out, the skill of cursive writing has an indelible imprint on your subconscious mind. So if you write, I'm a values-based person, it goes into your subconscious, and your subconscious mind starts to repeat that over and over. So if you've been writing it out 10 times every day for a couple months, your subconscious mind believes it and makes it happen. But because we don't really believe it seems too simple, we don't start.
Yeah.
Or we'll do it 3 or 4 days and doesn't work yet.
And then stop. Yeah.
We're going to stop. Or we're just so busy, we don't have time. We think, I don't have time to sit down and do that. But, it doesn't take very long to do it first thing in the morning or last thing at night before you go to sleep.
It really doesn't, right? Okay, so homework. If you're listening to this episode, we now have to come up with our affirmations and write them every day. What, 10 times? Did you say 10 times?
10 times. And here's another piece of homework. You never again attach a negative word to the words I am.
Perfect.
Always, I am at my perfect weight. I am living the life I choose. I am financially stable. You never put a negative word next to I am. No more I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ignorant, I could have, I should have, I would have. No more of that, ever.
No more. No more. Amazing. So Judi, tell us, who do you think will benefit from reading your book?
Well, women of all ages. It's actually amazing. I really wrote it for women more like career women, that were out there. But interestingly enough, I had a lady, 80 years old, call me recently. I think she's past 80 actually. And she had read the book and she said, my husband died recently and then my dog died 2 weeks ago. And I just feel alone in my house. There's nobody, nothing. And I put your book right next to my bed so I can read it before I go to sleep. And when I get real lonely, I just reach out and touch your book during the night, and I know you're there for me. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want people like that. But yet in my art classes, I have girls at the university that are 20, 21, 22, they tell me they read the book and it made a major difference in their life, in their professional life, as well as in their personal relationships. So I know you're supposed to target your audience and say, oh, it's for people from this age to this age. But the truth of the matter is, if you're female and you need to feel a little more confident, a little more self-worth, a little bit more belief in yourself, that's who the book's for. That's who I wrote it for.
I think that we need that all the time, right?
I do.
Like no matter, yeah. And so I encourage everybody to pick up their copy of You Are More Than Enough by Judi Moreo.
Yeah, Moreo. Thank you.
I will put the link to your book in the show notes for sure.
Thank you. You can get it on Amazon.
Amazon, of course.
Or on my website.
Yeah. So I will put your website in the show notes as well. And that's judimoreo.com. Easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Easy. Thank you so much, Judi. And before I forget, before we leave everybody, you have an amazing ebook, and it's called Unlocking Potential. Becoming the Best Version of Yourself. Yeah. And so that's a gift that Judi is giving you. So make sure to download that. What's included in this ebook, Judi? It's just talking about the different things that you can do to unlock your potential in your own mind, to believe in yourself, to become who you know you can be, but you haven't allowed yourself to be. It's about giving up fear. That's amazing. So I will have that in the show notes as well. So make sure you grab your copy of Judi's ebook. And thank you so much, Judi, for being on the show. It's been so amazing talking to you. I'm glad we got to connect and meet before we meet up together in March on the Women Thrive Summit, which is going to be so amazing. Everybody needs a ticket to that. Yes, thank you. I am so glad we met as well. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. And if you're listening to this, I will talk to you on the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Julie's included a link in the shows to make it nice and easy for you. And if you want to create a beautiful, profitable business of your own, make sure to go unlock your access to Julie's 6 must-have resources for female entrepreneurs. These resources will help you build and grow your business with simplicity and ease. You can find them at juliecbutler.com/freebie vault. We'll see you in the next episode.